Hello and welcome back to Chrissy Pill Productions. Sorry about that whole 3 months hiatus thing, but I was playing a DLC for Destiny and had a cruise in the Baltic and not to mention all sorts of life stuff, so yeah, I'm finally back! What a game to come back to. Yes, I'm finally get to do something that I have been waiting for months. It's time for my review of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild for the Switch.
It was only Wii U, though.
Shush. With the announcement of a sequel on its way, I thought it would be a really good time to talk about it now that it's in the public attention again. Although, knowing how long it took this game to come out after being announced, the sequel will probably be out by, I'd say, 2022. But anyway, enough of my meandering, let's get into the actual review. The story isn't really much to speak of, but then again it is a Nintendo game, and that Nintendo's sort of known for not being the biggest ones to focus on the story. But what's interesting is you can essentially go straight from the beginning and tutorial to the final boss almost immediately if you so desire, with nothing but 3 heart pieces and a lot of sticks. The story begins with Link waking up from a 100-year sleep after being defeated in a battle, only to have amnesia. So you're given a tutorial by an old man who, surprise surprise, turns out he is the ghost of the King of Hyrule. No, not that one. No, not that one either. Getting closer. There you go. Link is sent off to reawaken and purify 3 giant war machines called the Divine Beasts and defeat Ganon. Along the way, Link gets back his memories of the 4 guardians who looked after the Divine Beasts, including Mipha, Azora, who is just adorable and precious and pure and just the most wholesome thing you ever did see. Daruk, one of the many Goron chiefs in the franchise that is a total bro, and being an absolute unit on top of that as well. Urbosa, the badass warrior chief of the Gerudo. And Revali, who is an obnoxious, irritating, self-centered, superior to thou mother-flocking bastard who I just want to punch in his stupid fucking bird face. Along the way, Link meets the successors to the champions, including a cowardly Goron, the current chief of the Gerudo who's only a little girl, an emo member of the Rito who just wants to be left alone, and Mipha's little brother, Prince of the Zora, who is so beef and buff and likes to pose and is really making me want to make a JoJo's reference. So Link enters the Divine Beasts, who are essentially the main dungeons of the game, defeats the 4 Blight Ganons, who are the bosses of said dungeons and the ones who killed the original champions, freeing the Divine Beasts from the corruption and as well as the champions' spirits. Oh, and along the way you can pick up the Master Sword if you so desire. After you've done all that you wanted to do, you can finally head up to Hyrule Castle and confront Calamity Ganon. The first phase of the fight is pretty good, taking the form of some half mechanical, half malice-filled sludge spider machine with a humanoid bearded face and all of the weapons of the previous Blight Ganons. However, it's the second phase against his dark beast form is where things start to massively dip. He transforms into the expected variant of the giant pig version of Ganon, and you think this would be a challenging fight, but no, instead you just hop on a horse, grab the light bow and shoot a bunch of weak spots until he dies. The only ways he can actually damage you is if you either run directly into him or he shoots you with a laser blast that's slower than my upload schedule. It's like they tried to make a boss fight like the ones in Shadow of the Colossus, but they forgot to put in all the bits that made those fights memorable and fun. Heck, Link doesn't even get to finish off Ganon. Instead, Zelda pops up after her 100-year stasis and instead defeats Ganon herself using what is essentially a divine spirit bomb. After that, Link and Zelda head off on an adventure and the credits roll. Really? Was that it? Okay, moving on. The gameplay is where this game really stands out. You can jump and climb, which might not seem very unique, but for The Legend of Zelda, this is a very new and exciting addition. Link has a new device called the Sheikah Slate, which he can use to spawn bombs of both circular and square varieties, use magnesis to move metal objects, use stasis to make objects stay still, or just hit them a bunch of times to send them flying after the stasis wears off, create pillars of ice in water, and take pictures. You can take pictures of objectives and give them to NPCs for certain side quests, but you can also take pictures of items and enemies as part of filling your index for the completionist aspect. Some of these pictures come with a bit of narrative, and if you collect them all, you get the useless envelope, which exists for no reason other than saying you have it. Keeps the completionist happy, I suppose. The combat system is really fun. Admittedly, the parrying might be something you need to get a handle of. And true, every battle-based item breaks. But the overworld is scattered with all sorts of melee weapons, bows and shields. Out in the world, you can collect resources and materials to either make meals of food for Link to restore his health, use them to upgrade sets of gear that you either acquire or buy, or you can sell them to NPCs in exchange for money. You can also tame wild horses, raid enemy camps, and complete Sheikah shrines, which are essentially mini dungeons, complete side quests, and collect Korok seeds to increase your inventory space. And if you collect all the Korok seeds, you are rewarded with a golden pile of shit! Nope, that's not a euphemism. The game literally gives you a golden pile of Korok poo, because the developers thought it would be funny. Oh, and it turns out all the Korok seeds you were collecting were also Korok poo. And the overworld is massive! Although, in my opinion, it might be a bit too big, because despite all the content, it still feels a bit few and far between in places. I think developers should have either worked on adding a bit more content or making the overworld a bit more tighter and smaller. The graphics are really good. Despite the shell shading kind of looking cartoony in places, it's actually surprisingly really well detailed. Heck, not just on the TV, but even on the Switch pad as well. The music is really good too, which is kind of be expected of the Zelda series. But what I did notice is that it's a bit more sparse and subdued and less grand than many of the other Zelda games. But I feel that it kind of helps in some ways to either build ambience or have songs build up when you're fighting enemies and then down again when there's no enemies around. Funny, I've mentioned the M word, yet he seems to have not appeared. What the hell is he doing? Ooh! Oi, faggot! Get out of here, this is my spot. Well, that was very rude of you. Is there any place that I'm welcome? No, because you're a camp pretentious git and no one likes you. Now get out of there. Sod off. I got to smash. Okay, fine, I'm going. What an obnoxious individual. Well, your mum's an obnoxious individual. yeah, see, I like that. Yeah, go on, yeah. Well, that was a weird tangent. The game is really good. I won't quite say it's a masterpiece like some other people, but I still think it's a really good game and worth a purchase. And definitely a good excuse to get a Switch. The DLC will continue that interest, including have a boss fight that I feel that only exists as Nintendo's way of apologising for how lacklustre the second phase of the final boss fight was. And while I feel the non-linear style was a breath of fresh air for the series, pun intended, I hope that the sequel improves on that by ironing out some of the mechanics, putting more focus on the narrative, and perhaps having a better content to overworld ratio. Now before I go, just a little word on my opinions on the Switch itself. I feel that it is a very versatile and clever device, although the battery life and the inbuilt stands aren't really up to snuff. But it certainly is a vast improvement over Nintendo's last console, although I feel that the Switch Lite's taking away most of these capabilities and basically being a glorified PSP is a bit odd. Well, that's all from me. Hope to see you next time in the next video, that hopefully won't take 3 months to actually get uploaded. Once you've done all you want to do, you can finally head up to Hyrule Castle. You can also tame wild horses.
Oh, Chris, no.
You dare bring light to my lair? You must die!